Indie Author Lab from the Alliance of Independent Authors is a brand new in-person event for indie authors during London Book Fair Week. Taking place in London on March 11, 2026, it's a full day of mentoring, workshops, and community connection. Created for indie authors by indie authors. Learn more and secure your tickets at selfpublishingadvice.org/indieauthorlab. Welcome to Self-Publishing with ALLi, proudly sponsored by Publish Me, helping indie authors succeed globally with expert translation, tailored marketing, and publishing support. From first draft to international launch, Publish Me ensures your book reaches readers everywhere. Visit publishme.me. And now, here's your host for Self-Publishing with ALLi, Dan Holloway.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Publishing News. And last week was all about bookshop.org, as you will remember. This week, news slightly more varied. There has been, you will, I am sure, have noticed, a huge controversy going around AI-generated novels on Amazon. So, AI-generated novels on Amazon, it seems, are big business. And this has been doing the rounds thanks to a piece in the mainstream media in the New York Times. And this piece focused on Coral Hart, who is not the author's real name, who uses AI to write romance novels in under an hour a piece. And Hart has written and self-published, I say written in inverted commas obviously, 200 novels in the previous year, and those 200 novels have racked up between them 50,000 sales, which has given Hart a six-figure income. And that obviously doesn't mean that she sold particularly many novels. That works out, I think, at 250-ish per title. But it does illustrate a point that we already know, which is that if you want to make an income as an author, you need lots of titles. And each title doesn't have to do particularly dramatic sales, but it is a question of cumulative effect. And 200 novels, 250 apiece, demonstrates that. And yeah, this, needless to say, has not gone down a storm. In particular also because Hart is open about helping others to do the same thing. So runs courses. You can pay the person behind Coral Hart to teach you how to do the same thing, what prompts to use, and so on. So in the words of all advertising, you too can earn six figures a year by churning out 200 titles. And so yeah, this has not gone down well in the author community. I think in large part because not only do people feel that this is fundamentally wrong, but that also platforms should be doing more to stop this kind of thing. It does kind of show that it is really, really difficult to stay on top of such things. But yeah, it also raises a really interesting question, which is that there are clearly readers out there reading this stuff. So this isn't just, I don't think there is a suggestion that this is reading farms or click farms who are buying these titles. These are actual readers who either are reading all of them or are stumbling across them and reading them, and there is clearly not a drop-off in sales. So clearly there is something about these books that means that if someone reads one, they are perfectly willing to read another. And that, as I say, raises all kinds of questions for the argument that there is no future in AI because it doesn't write stuff that readers want, because clearly to a certain extent it does. So if you want to stop people earning six figures by pumping stuff out, then the argument needs to be something else. And yeah, it's clearly feels like an unsustainable position. Of course, we have been there before in situations where people talk about tsunamis and all kinds of flooding the market, and the market cannot sustain this. We will just be awash with titles of rubbish. This, of course, is what people said about self-publishing authors and self-published books a decade and a half ago, or probably more than that now. That does make me feel old. That has settled down. What will happen to AI? Who knows? But it is clearly here to stay, and it is clearly upsetting a lot of people. And a similar story or not a similar story, but a story that I found equally interesting because it seems to suggest that creativity and AI is now somehow part of the establishment, comes from my home institution here in Oxford, where I broadcast from every week. We have just announced the establishment of the very first Fellow for Creativity and AI. So this is a new post, the Lau Fellowship for Creativity and AI, and it has been awarded to any of you who have ever had the chance to come to the new £185 million, I think, building for the humanities in Oxford, at which I am now based, will have seen so-called immersive digital artwork from Rafiq Anadol in the atrium. And what Anadol does is to use large data sets to generate AI art. And the quotation that he uses to describe his art is, "I hope to explore how generative AI can become a new form of cultural memory that listens to humanity's past while imagining ethical, poetic futures." So it's a different and equally interesting take on AI. So yes, a couple of very interesting, very different stories there. AI has also been in the news elsewhere in the way that we're much more familiar with, so in terms of lawsuits and legal threats. So in the UK, the Independent Publishers Guild has just done what a lot of UK organisations are very good at doing and issued a letter from a legal company demanding that tech companies explain themselves, explain what they've been doing, and stop doing it. So the IPG wants to know exactly what books have been used to train AI, how they've been acquired, and it wants to, as it puts it, cease using publishers' copyright without express permission and provide detailed records of content that has been used to date. This is something, of course, that the Society of Authors also did. It's not clear whether anything will come of this. As I say, a lot of organisations like issuing letters. Tech firms equally seem to like ignoring them. So whether this will happen in this case or not is not really clear, but this feels like more sort of getting in on the act of making sure that people know you are unhappy with something. And we end with another story that sort of has something about AI, which is that lots and lots of people are using AI and that lots of people who use AI are very satisfied with the outputs of it. This is a survey in Italy, but the really interesting findings of this are not about AI. So we will end with something that has a much older history than AI, but is nonetheless something that has been worrying us as an industry for a long, long time, and that is piracy. So this is a survey of 3,800 people and makes the claim that piracy amounts for almost a third of the whole Italian market. So it found that of those respondents, all of whom were over 15, a quarter of them had downloaded an ebook or an audiobook from a piracy site. And a total of 36% had committed some sort of piracy. So that might also have included photocopying, for example. The figure was notably very, very, very high amongst university students, for whom it was 76% of them who claimed they had committed an act of piracy. So, obviously, it's not clear whether everyone who pirated an ebook or an audiobook would, if they had not been able to pirate it, have bought it. So to that extent, it's not simply a case of saying that each one of those represents a lost sale, because clearly that is not the case. But nonetheless, it is also clear that some of them will, and this is a very, very big thing. And if a third of all the books sort of acquired, shall we say, is pirated, then that is still a huge proportion of the market that is going to be affected by piracy. So whatever you think AI companies are or aren't doing, a much older and simpler threat to the literary industry in the form of piracy seems to be as with us as it ever was. So, yes, with that, I will leave you and very much look forward to speaking to you again at the same time next week, when I hope I will have some more positive and uplifting news for you. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Self-Publishing with ALLi, proudly sponsored by PublishMe, helping indie authors succeed globally with expert translation, tailored marketing, and publishing support. From first draft to international launch, PublishMe ensures your book reaches readers everywhere. Visit publishme.me. And if you haven't already, we invite you to join our association and become a self-publishing ally. You could do that at allianceindependentauthors.org.